Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Aubrey Coleman, one of the hosts for the podcast, and today we're going to be looking at 2 Kings chapters 4 through 6. The kings greatly benefited from the help of the prophet Elisha. They owed him their lives to experience such a victory. You might imagine the kings would shower him with gifts and honor and dignity and gratitude. Instead, he was not remembered by the kings. However, Elisha's ministry was not sustained by the approval of princes, but was sustained by the approval of God. He was a faithful prophet, and God blessed his ministry. Coming into these next few chapters, we see 5 of his astounding miracles. After witnessing God's concern for the entire nation of Israel through the encounter of Elisha and the kings, we also see his concern for individual people through Elisha's interaction with a widow. She had lost her husband and was left to raise her 2 young sons alone. She was in debt, and during that time, in order to pay back debt, you had to give yourself or your family members to be enslaved until the debt was paid off. She had nothing of value to offer except a little bit of oil. In desperation, she went to Elisha. He instructed her to gather empty jars and pour a little bit of oil into the jars. Miraculously, when she began to pour, the oil kept flowing, and she filled up every jar one by one. With such an abundance of oil, she was able to make a profit and pay her debt with even money to spare to provide for her children. She was so thankful, and it led her to trust the Lord. In the next miracle, we are introduced to a rich woman and her husband who lived in Shunem. The woman was kind to Elisha and always welcomed him into their home, even making a room especially for him. Elisha offered to bless her for her kindness, though she had everything she needed, and she really just desired a child. She thought this was an impossible request, but she became pregnant, and the following year she gave birth to a son. The boy grew up, and one day he went to his father complaining that his head hurt, and on the same day he died in his mother's arms. The Shunammite woman went to find Elisha and fell at his feet and shared the news of her son. Elisha gave her instructions, but she would not leave without him, so he went with her. After a few attempts to lay Elisha's staff on the boy to wake him, Elisha closed himself in the room with the boy and prayed to the Lord. Soon enough, the boy sneezed 7 times and woke up. The boy's mother trusted the Lord and was overcome with gratitude. Now to the third miracle we come to in this portion of 2 Kings. There was a famine in the land of Gilgal, and the sons of the prophets were looking to Elisha for help. So he told them to get a large pot and make stew. Unfortunately, it became poisoned, and they could not eat it. But Elisha threw flour in the pot, and miraculously, it was edible. There was also a man who came to Elisha with a sack full of loaves. Elisha told him to give it to the people, but the man questioned how his 20 loaves could feed 100 men. But Elisha reassured him the Lord would provide plenty, and he did. Then we witness another healing miracle. A well-respected army commander, Naaman, suffered from leprosy. Naaman heard that the prophet of Elisha may be able to heal him, so he made preparations and traveled to see him. Elisha sent a message for him to go down to the Jordan River and wash himself 7 times to be cured. Eventually Naaman went, and on the 7th time he submerged in the water. Naaman was healed. He offered many riches to Elisha, but Elisha did not accept and said it was the Lord who healed him. Then Naaman left thankful and only served the one true God. Lastly, we come to the axe head miracle. This miracle might make us scratch our heads and wonder what purpose it would serve to bring an iron axe head that was lost in a river to float so it could be returned to the owner. All of Elisha's miracles up to this point have spoken of the God he serves and his character. His miracles have reflected God's compassionate nature, his provision, his concern for the big and the small, his trustworthiness, and his power and healing. So what does this miracle say about Elisha's God? It was likely to reveal God's power and his ability, in a moment, to defy the laws of nature and bring iron to float on the water. It serves as a simple reminder of the one who created the heavens and the earth, moving in even the most seemingly insignificant ways to care for us. We cannot neglect such a truth. The several miracles in this chapter serve as reminders of God's power and blessings. Even amid famine, death, and illness, God can and will provide for his people. He can bring death to life, make the barren fertile, and make the sick healthy. Every miracle points to the greater things to come for God's people. In a fallen world, we will face tragedies and troubles of many kinds. But God displayed his power through Jesus Christ, who took the form of a human, lived a perfect life, died a perfect death, and victoriously and miraculously rose from the grave so that sinners could find redemption through him. Thanks so much for joining us again today. Be sure to follow along on our Instagram pages at Daily Grace Podcast and at The Daily Grace Co. And check out our website, www.thedailygraceco.com. On the website, you can find our Story of Redemption study to accompany this podcast, as well as our Story of Redemption journals that have dedicated journaling space for every single chapter of the Bible. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to chatting again with you tomorrow.